right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. Have you ever had to try to calm down somebody who's just going berserk? Have you ever had that situation? I had that situation when I worked for the state, for the Juvenile Detention Center. And the one thing I was always grateful for was that I was able to reason with they were kids, but they were like 17. They were like young adults. Well, they were young adults basically, but you could reason with the ones I dealt with anyway, so that even as unreasonable as they may be behaving, as you talk to them, they could hear what you're saying. It made sense to them. They would calm down, and their lives hopefully got back on better track. When you hear about terrorists, when you hear about people flying airplanes into buildings or even holding themselves up in places with guns and threatening to shoot if you come into your own home or your own workplace, that can often be an unreasonable person. How do you reason with an unreasonable person? That is a real challenge. Elizabeth Heiter is on the phone. She's a member of the International Thriller Writers, and while we're talking about a novel titled Seized, my goodness, it certainly sounds like a lot of the stuff happening in the world right now. Let's find out about this from Elizabeth. Good morning, Elizabeth.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome. Where are you calling from?
I'm in Michigan.
Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
You did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for helping me with that. Okay, how's the weather in Michigan?
Oh, not too bad. It's snowing. It's cold, but it's February.
Well, we're in Florida. If you ever want to come down, you could. We got a nice warm studio.
That sounds lovely. This would be a good time to go to Florida.
The Super Bowl coming up. There's an immense amount of security. I saw a photograph this morning of one of the guards. This guy looked like he's ready for a war. So so they the way the law enforcement deals with people who are unreasonable, there's no questions. They just put them down, right? Like a dog, I guess.
I think it depends. Yeah, on the situation. I think that they're kind of learning to not necessarily go into a fortified position, but wait for some of these people to come out when they're fortified and heavily armed and things like that. Wait for them to drive off and try to get them on a traffic stop or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
When they're not surrounded by their colleagues who also have weapons.
So tell me about the storyline in Seized, and then let's expand from there to talk about the world around us.
Sure. So Seized follows my FBI profiler, Evelyn Bain, she works for the Behavioral Analysis Unit, and she's in Montana, actually in the prison system, talking to an incarcerated bomb maker. And it's kind of an assignment that she typically wouldn't do, but her boss is mad at her, so he sent her there to sort of get her out of his hair.
Oh, no.
And when she leaves the prison, another federal agent who works for the field office there comes up to her and says, I need your help. I want you to profile this compound that's out in the wilderness. They've been evaluated by the FBI, and the FBI thinks that they're relatively harmless, but I disagree. I think they're a threat, and I need your help. And Evelyn kind of mulls it over, and since she's in trouble with her boss and she really wants to prove to herself and to them that she still belongs in profiling, she decides, sure, I'll profile this compound and then I'll fly home. Well, the agent takes her out to the compound. Both of them get taken hostage, and inside the compound, Evelyn realizes this other agent is right. This group is a real threat, and they're planning an attack, but now she's stuck inside the compound. She needs the FBI to come in so she can get them that information, but if they come in, then she's going to be the first casualty.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, wow. When did this idea come to you?
I finished the book about a year before it was published, because that's, the time frame of publishing is there's a long lead time between when you turn the book in and when it gets published. So it was actually more than a year ago that I finished the book. And I got the idea just really reading up on, I got interested in cults, and I started reading up on those. And then I started noticing the similarities between cults and terror groups. Mm-hmm. And so I thought, well, that's an interesting twist. I'm going to put these two things together in the next book, and it kind of went from there.
Well, and can I ask you about religion as the role it plays in the mindset of some of the, what do we say, the cult members or the terrorist organizations? It almost seems like religion is used by those who manipulate them. It's real clear that it is. I don't believe that the leaders of those groups actually believe those things. Like in the James Jones, what was the thing? James Jones?
Yes.
Yeah. And was it Guyana? Is that where it was? Mm-hmm. Guyana? what was it? Jello? I can't remember.
Kool-Aid.
Kool-Aid. Yeah.
Kool-Aid.
I mean,
Right.
I don't know if he really believed it, but he certainly made them believe it.
Yeah, and I think some of these leaders are so charismatic, and they know they pick either they create a religion or a non-standard religious organization, or they pull off of one that exists and they kind of twist it and use it to get followers. A lot of them are sociopaths, and they know how to manipulate people really well. And yeah, whether or not they believe what they're spouting, I think sometimes yes, sometimes no. It depends on the group, but I think all of them know how to use it to get what they want.
But when you have a profile, that's your occupation is profiler. I mean, how do you get that? How do you? This is an interesting occupation, actually, that you gave Agent Evelyn Bain, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's an I never even heard of this occupation. So I'm with the FBI. I'm a profiler. I figure out. Kind of like that sports thing we were talking about this morning, trying to figure out what people are going to do before they do it.
Right. And it's the reason I decided to do this actually is many, many years ago, because this is the third book in the series. So I was researching, I had picked up this book by a former FBI profiler, and he was talking about his career, and I thought, this is really fascinating, because most law enforcement agents go to a crime scene and they follow the standard route of, talking to suspects and looking at the forensics and kind of leading logically where the crime's going to take them to investigate it. But sometimes you get a crime where, particularly if the victims don't know the person who hurt them, it's harder to find a connection if there's no forensics, things like that. And so profilers go in and they look at what the crime scene says about the person who did it, what it tells the profiler about that person's personality, and from there they tell law enforcement, well, you're looking for this particular type of person. You're
That's
looking
fascinating, yeah.
Yeah, so it was really interesting. And then in this case, and in cases with terrorists, because FBI profilers really do this, they try to analyze people and do it the other way around and say, predict what they're going to do next.
And it seems that intuition also plays a big role in that.
I think so, yeah. And studying, most of them have studied psychology in one form or another, and studied criminology and things like that.
Yeah, I wonder how much is learned intuition and how much of it is like this gift or something. I don't even know how to. I mean, we all have it to a certain extent, but I don't know if I guess if I was kidnapped and I was being held captive, I might start to try to figure him out. Somebody told us today was the anniversary of the Patty Hearst kidnapping.
Yeah.
I mean, she was a pretty smart lady. I wonder if she was doing the same thing with them, even though from the outside looking in, it looked like she was being manipulated by them.
Right.
And I'm sure a lot of people who are in that situation, I think part of the reason people get Stockholm Syndrome is that they start out trying to analyze the person who's taken them hostage and figure out, how do I get out of this? How can I identify with these people, get them to identify with me, see me as human so I'm less expendable. And in the process of doing that, you might see them as more human and start actually identifying with them.
Did your research not only lead you to going over different papers and things like that, but did you also interview serial killers?
I didn't do that. I did that research from books. I've interviewed a lot of federal agents, but actually going into the prison system and talking to serial killers, that's one thing I'm not sure I want to do. I did all the reading on it. There's a lot of material out there a lot of it from former profilers who've gone into the prison systems and talked to all of these serial killers and things like that. But yeah, that's one thing I wasn't so sure I wanted to do.
Yeah, because it seems like they could be very charming, and then they automatically suck people into whatever world it is that they need those people sucked into.
Right, and getting real information from someone like that is definitely something I think that you either need to be very good at or have training in, because most of them are going to lie to you and tell you that, oh, it wasn't them, and they are in prison for it, so obviously a jury thought that it was them, but that they can be really convincing about,
Is that thing in Oregon done, or are they still out there? I lost touch with the story out of Oregon. Is that still going on?
I think it's mostly done. They arrested the main people, and I'm not sure if there's. Last I looked earlier this week, there were a couple of people still in there. Followers who'd come out, and they were still in the refuge. But I'm not sure if they've left at this point. It was really winding down.
So when that news story happened, you must have said, "Holy cow, this is similar."
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, and the one before it, actually, with their father, I was watching that play out, and the book had been written and it was waiting to come out, and then this story hit after the book was out, and I thought, well, part of the reason I was interested in this research is I thought that it could really happen.
Yeah, right.
And it kind of did.
There it did, yeah. Okay, let's take a little break and we'll be right back. Elizabeth Heiter is on the phone. She's written this really well-written book. You will be captivated by it. It's called Seized, and we'll be back with more. The reason we have a novelist on for such a long time is because there's so much depth to this particular story. So we'll be right back with Elizabeth.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For Thursday, mostly cloudy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, mainly during the afternoon hours. The high in the 70s to near 80 in the southernmost part of the zone. Mostly cloudy, breezy, and turning cooler Thursday night with periods of rain early, then a lingering shower or two late. Lows will range from 39 in the northwest part of the zone to 51 in the southeast part. Some sunshine returns Friday, a breezy, much cooler day, high 59 to 63. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Joe Lundberg.
The staff at Mid-Florida Prosthetics is dedicated to helping you regain your previous lifestyle. They utilize their years of experience and your input to fit you and serve your needs. Mid-Florida Prosthetics serves a wide range of patient age groups from pediatrics to geriatrics. Listen this coming Friday at 9:30 a.m. right here on WOCA for In Step with You.
That was the sound of a tree falling. It could be your tree. You're going to have it trimmed, but never got around to calling Pride Tree Service. It could have fallen in a field, and now all you have to do is call Pride Tree Service, and they'll have it quickly out of the way for a great price. But don't wait until the tree falls. It may not fall in the field. It may hit your car, your house, or worse. So call Pride Tree Service today and avoid all those headaches before they happen. Pride Tree Service, 840-0750. That's 840-0750.
Robin, let's try a little plant trivia. Name this nursery. It's a not-for-profit, and it teaches growing and caring for plants to their students.
Oh, that's easy. Kenny's Place.
Or how about this one? It's a nursery conveniently located between Ocala and Bellevue.
Again, it's Kenny's Place.
Or how about this one? A nursery with a wide variety of just what you need or want at the most reasonable prices.
Kenny's Place, of course.
Kenny's Place at 7677 Southeast 41st Court. Give them a call at 867-1213. It's a caring place for people and plants. It's Kenny's Place.
At Ameris Bank, we understand that there is no purchase more exciting than the purchase of a new home. We are dedicated to helping you find the mortgage that meets your needs and giving you the personal attention you deserve. Our mortgage options offer a variety of benefits, including up to 100% financing, down payment assistance, and expansive credit qualifications, all with the competitive rates and exceptional service. Call Ameris Bank today or visit amerisbank.com to learn more. We look forward to serving you.
Ameris Bank is an equal housing lender and member of FDIC, a loan subject to credit approval.
Located in Ocala, Rinstar Medical Research has offered a wide range of clinical research trials for 17 years. Rinstar conducts clinical trials for conditions such as migraines, memory decline, fibromyalgia, and sun-damaged skin. To learn more, call Rinstar at 352-629-5800. Help us create a healthier tomorrow by volunteering today. Please call Rinstar at 352-629-5800.
All right, 75 degrees here at the studios of The Source, broadcasting from the Paddock Mall. Looks like we've got a chance of rain today, and then tomorrow looks like a beautiful Friday. So if you're out and about for the first Friday Art Walk, Robin and I will be out there by La Cuisine Restaurant, and just stop by and say hi. Right now, we are going back to our interview with Elizabeth Heiter. She is the author of the book Seized, and gosh, if you're reading the book, you're going to say, gosh, this sounds similar to that story in Oregon, sort of, kind of, not really, but just enough. Do you know the one thing that I have to ask you? I hope I'm not stepping over the line here. You look really young in the picture in the back. I mean, up until this point, I was thinking I was talking to somebody much older than you look.
Oh, well, thank you.
I'm not going to ask your age, but is this an old picture?
No, it's a relatively new picture. I got it taken right before my first book came out, which was 2 years ago. But I do look much younger than I am, which is wonderful now. I'm in my 30s. And when I was young, I remember being 21. I went to the airport to go visit my grandma. I just finished college, and they asked me if I was old enough to fly alone.
Oh my gosh!
Fly alone.
Oh, that's a blessing. That's a blessing.
You have two other series. One's a psychological suspense series, and the other one is a romantic suspense series. How do you keep that separate? Because sometimes you have to have romance into the psychological part.
Right. And actually, Seized is part of that psychological series, the Profiler books. It's the third book in that series, but it does stand alone. I actually find it really fun. So my psychological series, it's really heavy on the psychological aspects and figuring out why the person did it and the action and the suspense. But there is a little hint of a romance through the book. And my romantic suspense books, they're actually still heavier on the suspense because that's kind of where I come from first. I figure out the suspense and then I figure out some of the character interactions. But there's much more of a romance in those books, and I just kind of intertwine it. And I find that going back and forth between the two, kind of each one gives me a break from the other and makes me excited to go back and forth, kind of. So it kind of reinvigorates me for each series.
That makes sense. Have you ever read something from somebody and wondered if it was a man or a woman writing it, and then you're surprised because like a man who can write, well, I wouldn't know this really, but let's say a woman who can write from a man's perspective and really nail it. I could understand that. But a lot of times I'll hear lady interviewers like Ellen, for example. Ellen DeGeneres will ask like male authors, how did you write the woman's role so well, or something like that. And it is interesting that you the skilled author like yourself, I mean, you're able to do that. You're able to get into the mind of both sexes and into the mind of a unreasonable terrorist too.
Yeah.
I think some of that is just thinking about them as individuals instead of focusing so much on what their gender is or whether they're the villain or the protagonist. But before I start writing each book, I actually figure out a lot of each character's backstory and their history, how they grew up, what they're afraid of, what they're good at. So they become really kind of rounded people for me. But I do also like to help me write in, like from a male's perspective and make it seem authentic. I do read a lot of books written by men about their lives, especially because about 80% of federal agents are male. And so a lot of the books that I read by former federal agents who then wrote about their experience have been written from the perspective of men. So I think that kind of helps too.
If we could go back to the Oregon scenario for a moment, there were the two leaders, and then there were a few other people that were followers, and they were all holed up there. Well, then the two leaders came out and they gave themselves up, but the followers still stayed there. And I'm still not sure what kind of a statement they wanted to make, but once the leaders are gone, why don't the followers just leave too? How come they feel like they have to be a leader now?
This one was interesting because actually some of those people who came in weren't really part of an organized group that the two brothers formed. Some of them were actually from other groups who came in to lend their support, and then they were either wanted or not wanted. And some of those people really hadn't kind of come in a particular structure with those brothers and came separately. And I think some of the ones who stayed behind were actually ones who'd come separately. And so they didn't really necessarily think of the two brothers as their leaders. They thought of them as representing a cause they wanted to be associated with, and they're trying to kind of carry it on, I think, is what's happening.
Oh, okay.
You're in addition to the skill of simply writing a book, I like the way you write dialogue. The dialogue comes across in a way that you can hear the two people or more than two people speaking.
After I write a book, I usually try to read it out loud, and particularly the dialogue. That helps tell me if it sounds realistic, because it sounds different sometimes in your head than when you read it out loud. So sometimes when I go back through and read the whole, I do the whole book, which is 400 pages, and I sit there with tea because it gives me a sore throat by the end. But then I can hear when I'm reading it if my dialogue doesn't sound authentic, and then I go back in and try to make it sound like people really talking.
So could you have been an FBI agent? I mean, are you somehow living this life that you maybe wanted to at one point?
Maybe a little bit. It's funny because whenever I talk to federal agents, they say to me, you should apply to the FBI. And my response is usually, no, that sounds really interesting, but I think that they might redact things in my book if I work for them. And I love writing novels so much that that's kind of my first choice. But I do find it really interesting. I'd love to do their Citizens Academy, because I've been out to the academy at Quantico, and I've been to some of the field offices visiting and talking to people. But I'd love to actually go through a Citizens Academy, which they do have.
Your books have been translated into 6 different languages. How do you trust the people that do the translation to be able to have the same impact in their languages as you do in the language you've written it in?
Oh, that's a great question. That's actually something that my publisher handles. I don't really have anything to do with picking who translates it. I did have some say in the audiobook this year, for this book, which is interesting. But as far as it going to other countries and who translates it, I don't really have much say in that. And a lot of the languages that the books have been translated in, I can't read, so I have to trust that it's right. I can read a little bit of German, and so the books have been translated into German. So I haven't yet tried to read it through, but I'm curious to see if I can understand my own work in another language.
That's funny.
Or not.
Oh, that's great. Well, good for you. I am so excited to get to know you, Elizabeth. Call me, this is for the listeners, not for Elizabeth. You can call me too. But for the listeners, I have the book here. Call me if you want the book that was sent to me. It's a paperback book. It's called Seized. Elizabeth Heiter is the author. You can have the one that was sent to us. The rest of us have to go buy it. Elizabeth, you have a website for yourself, and how else do we get the book?
I do. My website is just my name, so www.elizabethheiter.com, and Heiter is Heiter. And you can find the book anywhere books are sold, pretty much. If the bookstore that's near you doesn't happen to have it, they should be able to order it for you.
All right. Are you on the life path that you envisioned? I mean, this sounds very exciting.
I am. Since I was little, I always wanted to write books, and I always really wanted to write mysteries. And so I've kind of been dreaming about being a published author all my life. And it's amazing to actually be able to do it and go see that my book is on shelves. And every book, that still feels amazing.
And what are your thoughts on the books being made into movies, if that should happen? Is that something you would want or not?
I would love that. I think that would be really cool. I have had some interest in that and some people looking at it, so I think that'd be neat. It's interesting because authors don't usually have much say in that either.
Yeah.
Once it gets to be put into a movie. But if it did, I would have some thoughts on casting and all that.
I think Evelyn Bain is kind of a mature, grown-up Nancy Drew type of character.
Yeah, and I did read Nancy Drew growing up. I loved those books when I was, in my early teens or before, and those were kind of, I think, one of the things that got me started on mysteries.
Yeah, they were wonderfully written.
All right. Let me see. What city are you in?
I'm in Bloomfield Hills. It's a suburb of Detroit in Michigan.
Okay. Let me just type in Detroit.
Okay. Now you got him.
Hold on. I'm looking at something. All right. Let me see. It's 35 degrees there right now, it says.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wish I was in Florida.
But you got snow coming on Monday.
Oh, wow.
According to the AccuWeather, yeah. Just so you know.
That sounds about right.
Just so you know. Actually, I'm jealous. I would love to have some snow. Thank you so much for being on there. Keep up the good work, and please come on again. And if you're ever in Florida, we'd love to have you in the studio.
Oh, thank you. I'd love that.
That was really a great interview. Elizabeth Heiter, Heiter. The book again is called Seized, Seized. Go to elizabethheiter.com. Call me if you need any of that repeated. And plus, we recorded the interview, so that'll be up on Facebook and YouTube by 2 o'clock this afternoon. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. For Thursday, mostly cloudy with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, mainly during the afternoon hours. The high in the 70s to near 80 in the southernmost part of the zone. Mostly cloudy, breezy, and turning cooler Thursday night with periods of rain early, then a lingering shower or two late. Lows will range from 39 in the northwest part of the zone to 51 in the southeast part.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.